Okay, I'll just start with what you can expect to learn in this session. And what I will talk a bit about is startup meetings and why they are essential and very valuable when you're going to start to product development, and how to collect information on your target audience and the transfer of this user insight to your team, to your developers, and why it's so valuable to do that transition of information from your user and to your developers who are going to build the final solution. And then also a bit about how to stay in touch and why it's so important to don't forget to stay in touch the whole way, also after you launched your product. I have decided that we skip this part because we're a bit delayed. There wasn't questions for you, and I think we are a bit behind the schedule. So I'm just jumping over it. There's some questions, and we can take them in the end if we have time. Okay, startup meetings. That's really about aligning the whole team, as I said, and clarifying, because you might think that everyone on your team know exactly the same as what's in your head. What are we going to do? Why are we using, why are we building this product? Who are our users? So having startup meetings will make you as a PM or everyone on the team sure that you are working towards the same goals. And also on the process of working together, if you clarify a few things up front, then you might end up having fewer conflicts on the team, because that happens. People want different things, and it's always or almost very often based on misunderstandings that could have been avoided. So target groups. One of the questions in the slides was, who are your target groups? Because you don't always know who your target groups are. Sometimes it's really obvious. And I don't know if some of you know are considering going from print to a digital product, as I had just done with one product. But then you realize you get a few new target groups. And you get new opportunities within target groups. One example is kids with dyslexia. I've just made a product, a news product for kids. They're not reading the paper subscription, and I don't read the digital subscription either. But since we have made it possible to listen to our articles, suddenly we are relevant for them. So who are your potential target groups? And then it's something else that we often forget to think about, and that's our internal users. Because if you're going to develop a successful product, you also have to help your journalists to publish content and curate content. And then you need to talk to them about what is best for them, because if they doesn't have efficient systems, then they might not be able to use the things that you have built. So I just want to ask, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good, because I thought the plinging was something that it's okay. That's another thing, roles and responsibilities. Because sometimes you have filled all the ideal roles in a team, and sometimes you're too few. Either you are a perfect amount of people on your team, or you're too few. It could get misunderstandings of who is responsible for what. And if you start out without have clarifications about that, because a PM and a tech lead and an engineering manager differs a bit what responsibility that I have from team to team. So make that clarification, because that's sort of a route for conflict. If you sort of think that's your responsibility, but it's someone else. Or if you're a small team like I had, we haven't had all the roles filled. Who's gonna do what's no one's responsibility regarding the role you're given when you was employed? And then it's like, this is important part of the product development, who is going to do it? And then it's something I call game rules. That's really how should we collaborate on my team, our team? How should we share information? What tools should we use? What kind of meetings do we need? How often? How should we arrange meetings? How should we solve disagreements? So this is part of the things that is, and then is something else is what you really need to be successful with your product development and launching successful products. So now I'm going to try to do something that I hope will work. So I'm going to go into a Miro board and I'm going to try to share it with you. Can you see my Miro board now?
Yeah, it works.
Yeah,
I can see it.
good. So what I want to show you now is the tool I use when I have a startup meeting with a new team. So please, and I will share the link to this after. So if you want to copy it and look into it and use it with your team or in your organization, feel free. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. Do you see it? Oh, is it okay to see for you now? One yes or one no?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So one place to start out is you don't always know when you start a team what your purpose should be. You might not have all the answers when you're doing this exercise with your team, but some of the point here is that you and everyone see, how is everyone else on my team seeing this? And then you might realize that someone on the team has a completely different understanding that you have, or what's what's the mission, what's the vision. And then this is for all these 12 parts I'm going to show you. You can clarify, you can see that someone is thinking the target group is someone else, someone think that your main goal is something else, and you maybe have a very different opinion on how to collaborate. So, but starting out with my team, we are making a news product for kids to be used for teachers and students in school. So I imagine that you have this knowledge about where you are going, and from that knowledge, get the team together as soon as possible. Don't feel that you have to know a lot before you do this with your team. As a PM, you often feel responsible to sort of have sorted out a lot of things so that you know a bit more and can share. Just be honest. What could our mission and vision for this product be, and start playing around with it. And together you will learn a lot about how others see it, and you will learn from each other. And the same goes for what kind of goals and outcomes could it be? And again, target groups. Maybe you have an obvious target group, but if you're launching a new product, maybe it gives you opportunities to enter new markets. So get everyone in here. What is the obvious target groups and what are the potential target groups? And don't forget your internal users. And you remember I showed you my successful fundamentals. I will get back to that. But what do you need? And this is, sometimes you can't get all what you need, but try to describe the ideal world. And if you do it alone first, and then you look at it together, you learn a lot from each other. And then it's a very important, and this is roles and people. Go together and see what do I need to fulfill this. Sometimes you can't fill all your roles. I will show you how this looks for me later on. But you might need a product manager and a UX designer, engineering manager and developers, maybe a data scientist. And then get everyone to look into what you think is the responsibilities for each of these roles on your team. And when you've done that, you've you get everyone to sort of, which role are you identifying you with? And this is where a very useful, you can see what strengths do people have. And there's two things. It's the obvious thing. Oh, I'm really good at developing. I know this and this programming, coding systems, or I'm really, really good at interview techniques. But also get people to have their tacit knowledge, because you can't always get your dream team. But maybe your developers, as one of mine was a previous UX designer, is really great at set up workshop with empathy mapping and these kind of things. People have secret competences, and you will need them on collaboration and maybe fill in the gaps. And then it's the last part here, to work at my best, I expect others to. And this is the feel part. How am I? Do you like to sit alone? What's your work style? How are you on criticism? Can you handle it? How do you need to get information that is not positive? And get people to be honest here. You get a certain common understanding of how you should work together to get the best out of each one on the team. So this is what you do with everyone together. You figure out, what do we need, or what is realistic roles for us to have on our team from the resources we have. And then how does everyone look themselves in one of these roles? Oh, I'm the product manager. Ask me about to work at my best. I need to have it this way. And then it's values and agreements. And this is really, how should the tone be on your team? This is about, sometimes people are very good at telling each other when something doesn't work and when everything is perfect. We, at least in Norway, I don't know how it is in your countries, but we're not so good at telling people explicitly that you're doing a really great job. And this could be that you sort of, you decide that we will find systems to tell each other that you did great today, you did great this week, or that if we fail, we're gonna comfort each other and say, oh, you tried and we learned something from it. That could be values to give people a feeling of safety on your team. So here is how you do it. I work a lot with developers, and myself included. I'm not so good at group thinking if I haven't been able to think by myself first. So really give people space to think about each of these steps by themselves first, add notes, and then you can work on it together. Because many people are better at finding, writing down maybe for themselves and then share the stickers. That it's a more safe zone of really sharing. Yeah, and this goes for these different parts with decision making. Who have the last say? Does anyone have the last say? How do you get to the point? What happens if you get a disagreement? How do you solve it? So this is different from team to team, but if you talk about it upfront, you have made yourself a toolbox that you can remind yourself about how you can solve it. And you probably have avoided a few conflicts just by agreeing on values and different other aspects. And this is how do you communicate and what tools do you use? This is what I shared before about what kind of meetings, how often, who do you have one-on-one with, how do you communicate with your stakeholders, with your team. So I will show you a few points from how I would have filled out this with my team if I did this today. I don't know where the one I used once was. But as a mission, we will make children in Norway better readers and listeners, strengthen their ability to influence their own lives and participate in the public debate. This is why we go to work every day. This is why we work with different ways of presenting news to kids so one can listen. We just launched our news with a translation in Ukraine for all the refugees coming here. We've also made it possible to have it in Russian and Polish because we have a lot of immigrants in Norway. And this is sort of part of that. We will make children in Norway better readers. We will make all children in Norway better readers. Also, though, with dyslexia, who can listen. So this is sort of what we work at every day. But then we have a future vision. We want to be the first choice when news is used in teaching. And I will say this was not made on the first meeting, but I think the little seed to these two, vision and mission, came out of our first startup meeting. So don't expect such ship-shaped vision and mission, but see it as an inspiration to start on the journey of finding your mission and vision. And again, target groups, teachers, students, editorials. And then we have added kids with dyslexia, blind kids. We made a special service for them. And then the fundamentals for success that we have figured out. Everyone needs to figure out for your team what's important for you. For us, it's been the market is large enough to achieve profitable operations. Correct price model. We solve user problems with unique, user-friendly and competitive solutions. It might be obvious, but it's something to hold the leadership accountable for. When you tell them that this is sort of the fundamental of success, you need to have the resources to deliver on this. And then sufficient conditions to further develop and upgrade the products. Maybe when you start up, it's sort of like a small MVP and you have a few resources and you want to scale it up. That's where you need more resources and you need this. I'm going to scale it up. I'm going to launch it real. I need some more resources. And then, of course, when we build a product, is nothing without the contents from the journalists. So informative and engaging contents goes hand in hand. Yeah. And this is my team. And I only have 4 developers. I have no engineering manager, I have no tech lead on my junior team. I have a UX researcher 50% and a product manager. And I have a UX designer. So I don't have a data scientist and a lot of roles, but I will show you how we cope anyway and how we fill all the roles when I go back to show you a bit how we work to fill all the different tasks that need to be done. I'm not look at the time now. We still have quite a bit of time. So I will tell you a bit about how we have agreed on a few examples of communication and tools. And again, when you start setting out, this is the ideal way for us to communicate, and we will use this tool. Don't think that you set it for the next 2 years. As your product is iterated on, so should your process and how you collaborate and do product development also be iterated on. And we started out with a Slack channel to tell each other, because we work remotely. My developers are in Poland, I'm in Norway, and my UX designer is here, sharing what we did that day. And we was like, no, this is, so then we started with a video meeting daily, 15 minutes. And then we had a lot of small meetings with different other centralized dev teams. And we saw that eats up a lot of the time in the day. So when I say here, we have a power hour. That's 1 hour where we have 15 minutes daily and 45 minutes to discuss problems with others, journalists, marketing, or other central teams. And that note wouldn't have been there on our first startup meeting, but it's there now. And that's because we iterate on the process and figure out, okay, then we say to everyone, you're welcome to visit us tomorrow at 10:30 and share your knowledge, your problem, or to collaborate with us. And if it doesn't, it's possible for you tomorrow, maybe the day after. And the reason why we do this is because then we have a free time before and after this, because developers need to develop in depth over a longer period of time to do it efficiently. I have to sort of think about the problem. So this is the things that you should think about on communication and tool. How many meetings do you need? How often? How many daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly? And who should you meet with? When it comes to key stakeholders, I do that one-on-one because I find it easier to talk with key stakeholders one-on-one. Yeah, no, I'm going to try to return to my presentation and so see how that goes. It works. Can you see my screen again now with no?
Yeah, we see the slide. Or do we?
This one, the problem is that I have this line on the top. Just a moment. I think I'm here now.
Okay. Yeah, you're back to slides.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry about this, but I've learned a lot today, and I'm gonna iterate on my presentation skills in Zoom after this. Okay, we will change a bit now and go from where I see someone has sent a message. Yeah, if you have any questions, do anyone have a question? Let's take some questions because I'm changing topic now. Do you have any questions to the startup meeting? Was it useful? Is this something you can use? So maybe we should take these questions now. 5 minutes before I move on to target group.
I think just on communications, can you share a bit more on sort of what tools or ways that you think you can have more open communications? Because I think that's also really important in this process, right? So that everyone has access to the same shared information, and I guess some tools or practices around that, because I think that that's one of the sort of challenges with the digital transition in some of the newsrooms that I talk to, is that cultural, really that cultural change as well. And then I guess also, because we're about to start to talk about the sort of audience research, I think, but it would be good if you can add any more about how do you do this in a very small newsroom? How do you create that team?
Yeah, I'm going to elaborate a bit on how we do this and the rest, but I can say that the tools we use Slack with channels. That's sort of the core communication. Since I have a remote team as well. And it's important to have different groups with different topics. So with the developers, we communicate daily there, but I would say that the power hour, that's where the magic happens, the daily magic, because you need to talk to others. As a product team, you need to include a journalist. You need to listen to their challenges. You need to be in touch with marketing. You need to be in touch with your stakeholders or other dependencies team you're depending on. To collaborate, we use Miro, as I showed, for discovering. We use Figma for drawing out prototypes.
Which one is that? Figma?
Figma is a design tool where you can design
right, yes. Yeah. Maybe we can share these tools afterwards as well.
Sure, I can add a list with all the tools that we are using. And
great.
Yeah. Okay.
And documents, how do you kind of share documents? Do you use Google Docs or what do you use?
I use a lot of Google Docs and Drives, but most of our communication is in the Slack channels. Yeah, and we have, and then Figma is where you see everything about the product. The sign, the size on buttons, so all the details connected to, and then we have reports for user research. That's Google Doc Drive. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I will see how I can get rid of the comment. It's in the middle there. Sorry. If I do like this, I'm afraid of clicking to anything. Yeah. I'll try to. I have the comment.
I think we have a question, if you don't mind, maybe.
Yeah. Yes. Feel free. Yeah.
Actually, I think Hilal raised her hand. I guess that's a question.
If it's okay to ask now, it's just about the meetings you mentioned earlier. Thanks for the presentation, by the way. Although you said you wouldn't know like how often you will have these meetings with the group of the newsroom, or maybe you should think about that. I always find this remote working systems meetings quite problematic. Like, you know, people are connecting, they're not connecting. So, you know, they're, as we had similar things like earlier, they're not that motivated, you know. There's like 5 p.m. in London, maybe 10 p.m. in somewhere in Japan. Like,
Is it Hilal? We're losing her.
Hilal, I think I can't hear you now.
Is like, you know, super awake. These kind of things when you're working for like a small outlet.
Hilal, I think I have problem hearing you because we lose
can be international. How can you solve these problems? Like,
Hilal?
let's say you're going to have one meeting.
I think she just proved her point.
Yeah.
Problems of online meetings.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Maybe she did it on purpose to prove her point.
Yeah. Okay. I will. Yes. I just continue, and then we will get back to her questions. So I think she. Okay, how to get to know your target group? It's many ways to do that. I think the most valuable one is the in-depth interview. And this is a 2-hour, 1.5 hour interview with someone in your target group. I will get back to that. Surveys, either if you launch them from your existing product or send them to someone in your target group, could be very valuable, but I would recommend to do that after you got some clarifications in the in-depth interviews. Observations is always very useful, but sometimes it's difficult to get to figure out where you can observe your user group. For me, it's easy because I can go to a classroom. So that's very useful. But think about where can you observe your users? And how can you get access to observation? And workshop with users or potential users. And an important thing is competitor analysis. Don't fail on not doing that. Make yourself a Google sheet. Who are your competitors? What do they have that you want to have and make it better? Just really go through and make categories of what you want your product to be like, and see who has what you want to do. You can be quite successful just having an overview of what your competitors is doing, and adopt something or make it better. Okay, on the next slide, I have added one of the really great docs that was shared with you up front, and I added two more. One of them is an example of an interview guide that we have used, and the other one is a step-by-step from before, during, and after. So I'm not going to spend time on, because this you can read, but I just want to highlight a few things. And that's sometimes obvious, but so easy to forget when you make an interview guide, is to ask open-ended questions. Don't put them in a situation where it's possible to answer yes or no. Test your questions before you use them. Is it possible to see yes and no? Reconstruct them. And have the courage to be silent for an uncomfortable long period of time. That's where the magic happens. Where you ask a question and it takes a while, you just sit still and let them take the social responsibility and start to talk. Because then if you sort of gonna save the social situation and give them like some follow-up so to help them, don't do that, because you can destroy something magical. And really make people elaborate on their habits in their life. By this, don't be too specific. I will get back to this. And then use the opportunity when you have got hold of one in a target group. Let them show them how you use your product or a similar product, and guide them through. Ask questions, and don't lead them anywhere. Ask open questions. And how do you use this? What do you do if you want to get this? And then, I know it's not always possible to be two people to conduct the interview, but really, really try to be, because the value of that is that one of you can really concentrate on asking the question and listen, and the other one can take notes. But maybe you are a wizard on touch methodology, but not everyone are. So ask for permission to record. But even if you do, take notes as good as you can, because transcribing a whole recording takes a lot of time. You really want to do it anyway, because there could be some really, really valuable quote that you can use towards the marketing department, stakeholders. That's really the quote that shows you where what choices you should make. So do good notes, but listen to the recording and see, did I miss a really, really great quote? And then after, debrief immediately, either by yourself, before you look at you listen to your recording, write down what you remember, or debrief together with your colleague, because there's so much going on. What went in the room? What did they do? Did they push any buttons or did anything when you observed? It's always something that you have grasped but wasn't able to either. It's not possible to see it on the recording, or it's not possible to take notes of everything. Okay, this was a bit quick on interview, but I think from the three attachments, if you need more information about how to conduct an interview, you will get really good descriptions there. And if you have any questions, please contact me after, and I can help out. Here, are three documents that you can look at. Okay, a little bit more. This is a typical situation for many of us, I guess, being in bed in the morning with our phone. And back in 2010, it was really not obvious that so many people have started 2011 using their phone to read news. We still had a desktop first strategy. We made the product for desktop, not for mobile. And it was actually someone who did in-depth interview. And I said, tell me about a typical morning in your life. And then someone realized, wow, people are really reading news before they get out of bed. And today, this is like, why do you tell me this? Everyone does it. But at some point, we didn't know. And and someone decided that, hey, we need to think of mobile first, because we need to really look into how does this product look on mobile, because so many is using it. So my point is, if you ask open questions like this, you will discover things that you didn't know was possible to discover. So how do you get from interviews to users' pain points? Well, as I said, we need to identify the target groups' need or pain points. And 6 to 12 interviews is sufficient enough. Then you will start seeing patterns of typical behaviors or pain points. And then you follow up with analyzing, categorizing, and looking for patterns in the material. And the aim is to sort of get some personas with different needs, see the different types that within your target group. Maybe not everyone has the same pain points and needs, and maybe you can serve one thing and another thing. This is us after we did 6 teacher interviews. So what we practically do when it's not pandemic, if it is a pandemic, you do the same on Miro board. We cut out the pieces, because if you have seen at the interview guide I shared, there are like writing, reading, planning, teaching. So we cut it out and we glue them below each other, so we can read each answer from each of the 6 teachers, and then we look for patterns, and we use what do you call it, markup pens in different colors. And this is hard work, and we are together from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, and we do it quickly after we finish the interviews, so we have in mind. And then people who conducted the interviews and people who didn't participate in the interviews are here, and this ends up in reports that we can share more widely with journalists, with developers. Developers should participate in interviews, because they also need to understand the user needs, and they will make better products. But in Poland, speaking Polish, very difficult with Norwegian teachers and students. We have had them in our workshop room on video meeting and convinced the teachers to speak English. So they have talked to some of them. But what we do is make great reports they can read before the next phase, so they get the second best to being there together with them. So I will show some examples from the reports. This was on why and what do kids read. What we did then, we did a workshop that's interview with kids, and we showed them the paper edition that we originally had. And the first thing they said, we realized they don't like to read. I hate reading. I don't think it's fun at all. But what we learned is that they like to read things like the circular fact box. They like to these capital letters. So the aim of this was, what is great in the paper version that we actually can make a better solution for digitally. So this is examples we share from learnings, like speech bubbles. That's something they really like for several reasons. One thing is because it's easy to read, because it's framed in. And the second thing is that they think it's difficult sometimes in a text to understand who says who. But if it is an image of something and the text bubble, they realize who is talking. So I will try again to, can you see that have I changed to an article on Juniorskolen now?
Yeah.
Can you see a mammoth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that okay. So one of the things we did was we made this. It's an explanation because they like to think read things in boxes, and they like to know who is talking. So this is a picture of the dinosaur expert and something he says, and then it's more easy. So that is our solution on a problem with them think it's heavy to grasp a whole text. Okay. And now I will show you a bit more about how we get from where we know a lot to we know what to do. And this is where we need to collaborate even closer with the journalists and the journalists. Half of the people you saw in the images are journalists or editorials. They're with us out doing the interviews, but also the developers, even in another country, they need to be in on this. This is my great team in Poland. I never met them in real life, but we have been celebrating birth of babies and dogs that need to be put down because they're old. We know each other really well, and we work a lot together. But they don't live in Norway. They don't know the Norwegian school system. So I will show you how we work to get these beautiful developers in Poland to have empathy with real unique pain points for Norwegian teacher as an example. Okay, so when we done the report, we made the personas. And in the personas, we try in a very clear way to synthesize what all the 6 teachers or 3 teachers said that is important. In Norway, we have 2 languages, 2 written languages, which is really similar. Half the country speak one, write it one way, and another, it's almost similar. And everyone has to learn both. It's political and historical reasons for this, but for Polish developers to empathy with this, that's quite hard. But it's also important to understand, why is this a pain point for a teacher? Because the teacher needs the article, one article to be in both language forms. So that's the pain point, because it only exists, the news article exists to one, she needs to translate it to the other form. So what we give this to the developers, like a pre-read with this, and maybe something like this. Does it really exist languages that is only written but never spoken? Does it really exist countries with 2 really similar languages that is only written and not spoken? And a student have to learn both. Yes, it does. And some students, they hate it. That's the worst thing, learning something very similar, but they need to do it. And the teacher need to teach them both. So after I have been out interviewing some teachers, the UX designer, the editorials in Norway, but we need to get the developers on board on this. So then we fill out this. We do it because we talk to them, but the developers do it because they have read the report. So then we think out, okay, this Nynorsk teacher have these problems. What does she think and feel? What does she hear? What does she say and do in the classroom? What does she see? And the thing is then, everyone get a clearer picture on how they know this problem. And I see if there is any misunderstandings, because misunderstandings can lead to developing the wrong things. So it's a clarification and empathization session. This is what it could have looked like, or it did look like when we did it to teachers who only have Nynorsk student in their class. And after we done this, we're going to define needs of different types of teachers with different Nynorsk problems. I'm not going to elaborate on that time-wise. And then we move to the developer's perspective, and the editorials and the PM and the UX is together, because it's just as important that the editorials understand where are the pain points, because there could be problems making what is the best solution. So I'm not gonna go into this, but it's really important that we understand each other's pain point in the process of product development and help each other. And then the editorial perspective, because if we're gonna have a situation for them where they need to translate an article instead of the teacher doing it, it's extra work. How does we make that easy for the editorials? How do they see their workflow? How do we see their workflow? And we learn from each other's perspectives. Before pandemic, we didn't do this on Miro. We actually met in real life. Then I didn't have the same developers as now, but it was great. Okay, I will show you. So what did we make? Well, this is Bokmål, which is one of the Norwegian forms. But if I click here, I get Nynorsk. You can maybe hardly see that it changes, but it's actually a robot that changes between Bokmål and Nynorsk, makes it easy for students and teachers to choose. And speaking of talking about habits on a widely perspective, don't ask too specific, then you learn something new. What we learned is that some teachers said, yeah, and where do you find resources? I'm really struggling finding English stuff, something that's relevant. And that's what we learned on the way. So that's where we made a robot that can translate it to English too. And ta-ta, all the English teachers can use our service too. So that's about asking open enough questions to get information that you didn't ask for. That was the wrong tab. Okay. I'm speeding up a bit. How to stay in touch with your users. Stay in touch with your users every week. We can do observations, and then we come back and we do the debriefing of everything. We took notes and learned. You see a lot of mistakes. And other things, adopt a user. Each one of the team has a user you can talk to regularly about how your product evolved. Establish a group of super test users. Give them a gift, maybe a free subscription or something, and you can email them a prototype, ask them a question, have a survey on the site, phone them, the super testers, and yeah, we have a lab where they can come and visit us and do workshops together with us. And remember to test your product every week on all formats, mobile, Android, iOS, desktop, tablet. That's also a way of staying in touch with your users. See what they see. Yeah. And don't forget to have fun while you're making your product, really. So that was really it. I didn't do the questions, so we have a bit more time now because I was unsure how it will go. Yeah. So any questions? I really like to know how you.
Any questions? David.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go, Nigel.
Oh, am I jumping? David, were you about to say something? Jump in.
I would suggest we stop sharing screen so we can all see each other.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
How about that? Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, cool.
Sure.
Go on, Nigel.
So you know, we're a smaller outfit here in Zim. So how long did it take you guys to build that product team? You know, how many years is that? What's
To
the
get the product team up and running.
yeah?
Well, I came in, I was employed. When I was employed, there was 3 developers on the team. And a UX designer was employed together with me. So after that, I got an UX research. So for me, it didn't take that long because someone has started it before I got in the picture. I was sort of part of the, I came in where some resources were already there.
Okay.
They were already working in Schibsted and was sort of moved from one thing to another. So, but I was employed. But to answer that question, that was in 2019. And before that, it's been probably a couple of years with business case and sort of talking about it, showing, getting stakeholders internally to sort of jump into the plan. So I don't know if that was more an answer to your question from a business case. I know that SVD in Sweden is doing the same as us now. And that's 1.5 years ago, they started to sort of work on their business case. And there will be a decision this week if they're allowed to set a team and build on top of what we already have.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, we want to be like you guys when we grow up.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that whole fancy product. What I mean, we're a very simple, you know. But yep. That's the vision. That's where we're going.
Great. I would happily further collaborate if you need some inspiration. We are a very small team in Schibsted. Schibsted is huge, but we are sort of made, we have been made from the kitchens in Poland and Norway. I think we was gathered just a few months before we shut down. And that's so I managed to have one gathering with the first developers, and then I got new developers halfway through. So, but what I will emphasize is it's really is possible to do a lot with few. As I say, I don't have an engineering manager. I'm the only team in Schibsted not having an engineering manager. What does that mean for me? I have to solve all the security, GDPR problems, go in meetings with other engineering managers to sort of solve these things. I'm not a technologist, but I'm good at asking questions. And I'm good at sort of figuring out who can help me in this building or this virtual building, Schibsted. So don't give up if you are a few, but we have a word in Norway that's not possible to translate, so dugnad. And everyone is really now, because there's been so much dugnad under the pandemic, that means that everyone should join in and do whatever they can to get something done. And I would say that our product is based on dugnad. I've been out interviewing so many teachers, observing so many kids, and I've been in a meeting to figuring out technologies, solutions for AI. So, and that comes with all the others too. Just be prepared that you have to go beyond what you can and fake it till you make it. Because, or just be honest, say, I don't know anything about AI, but I have a lot of reasonable questions. Can you answer them? And then you learn a lot on the way. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I think maybe we could try now to get back to Hilal.
Yes, let's do that, Hilal. Can you hear us, Hilal?
I think her connection is not.
Yeah, she has a.
It's not working because it feels like she's frozen.
Yeah. But, yeah, I'm a bit curious about what's where you are in your process, everyone, and how far are you from print to product, for instance?
Yeah, I think that's a good segue, which we perhaps should have done at the start. But why don't we all just introduce ourselves very briefly, so we have a sense of, that's right, you know, as Lena says, you know, what are the kind of challenges that you have? You know, where are you in the process? What are you thinking about?
Yeah.
So I'm Jackie Park. I'm the head of network strategy and innovation for IPI, and so I'm, you know, thinking a lot about these kind of questions and challenges for different, you know, groups of media around the world, and you know, sort of had the conversations with Lena that brought this workshop together. So that's me. David.
Hey everyone. I'm David. I'm coming from Slovakia. I'm a, you can say, product manager, but more like my official title is subscription specialist. I don't have a question for you, Lena, if I can just you know, jump it in. How long does it take you to deliver new products with this kind of rigor that you're working with, like the whole process? I mean, there's like, in my news organization, there's like such, you know, like everyone wants to just like deliver products, like features quickly. It comes with like without testing, without user research, but like it's out, so everyone is happy. So yeah, that's something I'm dealing with.
Yeah. So yeah, you wonder how we work to get the process.
So let's say those examples you showed, how long is the time frame from, for example, delivering the article for the teachers from like beginning to end? Like, is it 6 months or like how long?
Yeah, how we work in sprints. Sprints is like 2 weeks of and what we really concerning is that we have just built a 3D globe content finder, and this is a globe that kids can touch the screen and find a picture, an image of an animal, and I can click on it and I can go and read. And the reason why we have made this is because kids don't bother searching, or the teachers want something pedagogical with the globe. So what we do then is that we have the interviews that we do regularly with teachers, 6 and 6. Then we reveal problems, and then we observe in the classroom, and then we see, oh, here we have a problem, here we have a problem, and then we go into these discovery sessions, which is maybe a week where we are in a discovery session and we work all day, and we look into the things I showed is like several workshops where we work with the editorial flow, the technical flow, we do the empathizing, and we look into technology solutions, talking to other central team. Maybe we were talking with someone external teams that we buy solutions from as well, that we have to combine. And then start the process of the UX designer prototyping and making a solution. And then the developers are in giving feedback on tech solutions. And when everything is clear with the solution from a technical and a design perspective, then the sprint starts. Then it's 2 weeks. And that's the main focus, is the globe. And we're going to build that. And at the same time, we on the other side is starting to prepare a new discovery session, new insights. And then so parallelly to that, we are ready to start on a new discovery session when we completed the globe. So we try to, in an ideal world, work on 1 and not more than 2 problems at the same time, really focusing on this for, together with discovery, it gets 3 weeks. Sometimes it's really complicated, so we need 2 sprints to build it, but that's how we do it. So we could isolate and say that we could build a solution 6 weeks, but the gathering of insight and that is done maybe a long time ago, but we base a lot of what we do today on insights we collected 2 years ago, and then we add on to it. We have 6 reports with like 20, 30 pages. So then we look in and we find patterns and combine things. I just got back today 2 interviews with teachers where they found something new and we add on to it so that the understanding grows and we get new understandings. Yeah. I don't know if that was answer to your question, but that's sort of kind of how we work. Yeah. Are you muted?
Hello.
Yeah, can I hear
Hello.
you?
Introduce yourself first and just tell us, yeah.
I had a question, but yeah, I'm Hilal Seven. I'm a Kurdish journalist. I live in London. I moved to the UK 6 years ago. I had a question. Every time when I was willing to ask you a question, I lost my connection. So if possible, can I ask my questions very quickly? Sure. First of all, thank you so much for the presentation. One thing, can we have an access to that game plan board?
Yes, I will share it in the. I will share it with you in an email after.
That's great. Thank you so much. And my second question was about whichever happened to me, before. How can you have these meetings efficiently where everybody's like me losing connection or getting exhausted of like the screen sharing or those kind of things? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure people are that motivated to every time having these kind of meetings when they work in a newsroom. Like imagine a proofreader has to do a proofreading and then there's a meeting coming for 15 minutes. It's quite a distraction. When you work in like an office in a building, it's a lot easier. Like you take a few minutes break and you're always in touch with those people. And it's not that hard to, have that kind of, I don't know, atmosphere, environment. How can you do that? That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not, as I said, my team, I never met them and we are working only remotely. We are lucky to not have that much problem with connection. But what we have done is that we have this cover hour, and the reason for that is to avoid having a lot of small meetings and then just focusing on that time. And then most of the communication elsewhere we do on Slack. That's quite efficient to sort of follow up on Slack. And you can also talk there, or you can write each other, you can send you can have like a phone call. So we talk, or because that's not so connected on connection. But I think a clue is get to know each other, because it's so difficult not to get to know each other. We do Kahoots. We have had, I've collected baby pictures of everyone and I have guess who is who. And I think it's easier, even if you haven't met, if you take some time just to get to know each other. Because if you're going to talk together and you don't know each other, you don't know anything about each other, it's more difficult. And then I think the startup meeting, where you agree on what you say, I get demotivated if I lose my connection. How can we collaborate in a way which is more efficient? And for us, collaborating in Slack, I need to talk to people every day, and I love the 15 minutes. I love the power hour, but it's much more efficient with Slack. So that combination of talking for an hour and then writing the rest of the day, that's more efficient. But how channels for humor, how channels for working on different part of problems. I have one channel with editorials, one of the developers, one for celebration. We always tell each other, oh, what, you released this, and then everyone says super much emojis of how great. And then we have a really important meeting that I didn't mention, and that's the retro demo planning. That's after these 2 weeks of sprints. And that's a tool called Retrium, which give you liked, learned, lacked, and longed for. And then you can write anonymously. What did you like in this sprint? What did you learn? What did you lack? What did you long for? And it's a good tool. Then you vote on what you think is the most important. And then you go through it and you speak about each thing. And that's where you iterate your process. Maybe one developer says, oh, it's so difficult for me when I don't get a code review in 3 days. And then the other said, I know, but I think it's so difficult to review that code, so I hesitate to start. Okay, what's the solution? Do it together with a colleague. And then there's the editorials maybe is there and says, oh, but I don't have time to be in this pilot because I have so much else to do. Okay, how can we make it easy for you? Maybe we can ask if you can get some time off from real production and then just be with us 100% for a while. So that's a place for solve problems. So it's not an answer to your video problem, but at least it is a tool to solve problems like that and find other ways of, and then find some money so you can meet up physically. Now that pandemic is over. If there is something you can apply for or something, because physical meetings are so important as well. I don't know if that was an answer to your question at all, but that's at least how we cope by never being able to see each other.
Well, thanks so much. It was great.
Okay, so let's Nigel, I'll come back to you in a minute. Can everybody else perhaps just turn your video on for a moment and introduce yourselves? Javier?
Who's next?
Hi, can you all hear me? Yes. Hi, Lena. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you also for sharing the software. I'll definitely take a look at them. Especially, I like the Miro, and I think that this is something that I can also use for my presentations, etc. So, introducing myself, my name is Javier Luke. I work as head of digital communications at IPI, and I also manage like the website and digital innovation in IPI, like the products per se, and also usually do a lot of trainings and experience on online harassment. So I was conducting the first workshop of this series. That's it. Thank you very much, and I really look forward to congratulations for the job, for the work that you're doing over there, and really interesting. We definitely don't have the resources that you do have over there, but it's inspiring to know what are the steps that we need to follow, and at least to have an overview of what should be done, and from there, from all the pool of measures and suggestions that you've given, which ones we can first of all adopt, to our reality and adapt it. So thanks.
Thank you very much. And don't hesitate to contact me if I can help out with any questions you have after.
Of course. Will do, Lena. Thanks.
Ricardo, Judith, Mikkel, are you with us? Saud was online earlier. Okay, we'll come back. Okay, so any other questions for Lena? I think it's really interesting presentation. Thanks, Lena. And I think it really sets us up for, I guess, that kind of cultural change, plus, for how to approach it, the kind of mindset, plus also some really useful tools that you shared. And we will share these afterwards with everybody. And so just to give you an idea of what the format from here, so Nigel will talk to us now, and then when we come back tomorrow, we have Carl Oskertine, who is the head of product with Boston, and he'll talk a bit more about sort of like that product thinking process as it relates to the newspaper, and I think particularly a big project that he worked on redesigning the front page online of Aftenposten. So that will be, I think, really useful, and we'll build on the presentation from Lena this afternoon, which is really sort of like the tools and the know-how, because that audience research is so central. And, you know, as Lena said, like, you know, that kind of like talking to, observing the users and really putting them at the very forefront of the design process is kind of like the essential first step. And so with that, and then tomorrow after Carl's presentation, we can have a discussion with Carl, will be with us. We'll have a discussion about some of the questions that you might have about moving forward with product design. So, okay, thank you, Lena. Thank you so much for you know, sharing all of that with us. And Nigel, I'm going to hand the floor to you, so to speak.
Thank you. My presentation is a little bit different. Let's see, I can share, right? I can share my screen. It's going to ask me. Portion of the screen.
Does it work?
I think so. Hang on. I changed machines the last few months. I finally left PC and I'm on a Mac. So I've made it in life.
So we cannot be friends anymore. Okay.
Don't be like that. Oh, I've got to hang on. Open my thingies. Then do the section. So I should have done this.
It seems it's better you have stayed with PC.
It seems so, right? It seems so. You could be right.
At least it gives me some comfort, and I'm not alone in struggling.
You see how important user experience
That's
is.
right. That's right.
Bloody hell. You guys are hilarious.
And I should have a recording of me practicing with my husband last night. He wasn't on the room, and I shared, can you see my presentation? Can you see my markboard?
And it was perfect, right?
Yeah. Didn't help me at all today.
Oh, hang on. You can. I was. I had another view yesterday.
Well, Nigel didn't practice, obviously. I mean, no pressure. No pressure, no pressure, but it's obvious you didn't practice.
Oh, video. I should have actually just sent it to you, right? Hang on. You're right. I didn't practice.
I'll just play some commercials.
I'll tell you why, though.
Is it a problem sharing your screen? Is that the problem, or?
It's desktop one. What does that mean? If I just click there, it'll open security, privacy, granted access. Yep. So privacy. So I choose Zoom. All right. Click lock to. What happened? Nope, that's not it. It's for some reason.
Is it like a presentation, a PowerPoint that you can share with me, and then I can do it?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Bet I won't be able to find it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's actually there. I just need to remember where I put it. Actually got a folder called presentations. Oh, here it is. It's right here. So I've just emailed that to you. Hang on. So while we're doing all that, I can just talk to you about who I am. So I've just sent something to you. See if you get it.
Hey, it's traveling from Zimbabwe. Patience.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, look, so hi everyone. I'm not going to, my organization is a bit different. We're a smaller outfit, based out of Harare, Zimbabwe. So just to give you a bit of background, because I like context. So I'm actually an accountant by profession. Studied in Australia, worked there in Sydney for did 6 months of audit in a small town called Armidale, and did 3.5 years of tax law. Was USMC, and I went cool back then, and we're cool now. And I ended up in Edinburgh where I did my MBA. So I spent another 5 years in Edinburgh before returning home in 2010. I'm from a family business background. I'm the oldest sibling. I'm the only son. My parents work in retail, and so I should theoretically be at the shop, right? But somewhere along the line, 260 Chapter was born. It was here we go. Is there a problem with the voice? What, can you hear me? I guess everyone, yep, everyone can hear me. I hope you guys can. You can hardly hear me. Yep. Can you guys all hear me though? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yes. So I mean, essentially, 260 Chats started off as a discussion platform. So the reason I give you this whole context is I'm trying to say I'm not a product person. I'm not a journalist. I shouldn't be in the newsroom, technically, but here I am. What I started was a discussion platform. So I live in Zim. I've lived in Zim since 2010. I'm back home, but I've also lived out there in the diaspora, and I'm a returnee. So I've got a unique perspective on life. I know what it's like to live out there, and I know what it's like to live here. We have a large population, given all the economic and political challenges over the last couple of years. We have a large population out in the diaspora. A lot of Zimbabweans in South Africa, the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, so forth, And so I lived on 2 different continents. I've got a little bit of different perspective. I spent 6 months in the States, in all that time. And so I bring, I won't say wealth of experience, but I bring a different perspective, right? So I can't read this thing, right? So can I just say next? And so what started off as what 263 Chat wasn't an online publication, right? So that's what it is now. That's our website, 263chat.com. 263 is the country code. Chat is kind of what we're doing at the time. So I'm not a branding expert either, right? I literally thought 263 is a country code, chatting is what we're doing. And all it was a Twitter discussion on Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, right? 6 p.m. local time. So literally 9 years ago, we were sitting on Twitter at this exact same time, chatting about whatever we're discussing. So we might have been talking about, like, we've got a by-election, a really important by-election this coming Saturday. we would have probably been talking about the by-election. We would have spoken about political parties, what's going to happen. Zimbabwe is a highly polarized and highly politicized environment. And so what I saw at the time was a need for an organization to exist that encouraged discussion, progressive discussion around what's happening in the country, both for those Zimbabweans here and those in the diaspora. So literally, that's what it was when it started. I had no business plan, no how am I going to get rich, with this. I just, I didn't see it as a business. I just saw it as a real hobby that I did every Tuesday at 6 p.m. local time. Next, please. And we didn't, we were on Twitter. We were literally on Twitter. That's all it was. There was no Facebook. There was nothing. There's nothing. As an account, I had to learn how to buy a domain name. Right? Where do I get a domain name? I discovered GoDaddy and all these. I think Blue was the domain name. Actually, it was someone had actually bought 360chat.com, sat on it, hoping that I would then approach them and then offer them big bucks, of which I didn't have the big bucks. So I basically registered 260chat.org and used that email address, and basically figured it out. And I owe a lot of the stuff that I know thanks to YouTube, right? I have an 8-year-old daughter, a very smart kid who actually inspires the work that I do every day. And when she was, born, 260 had been around for 2 years, and I just figured out how to monetize. And I was in the process of leaving the family business, much to the disgust of my dad, who wasn't in agreement with the whole idea of son, you're back home, you spend all this time, all this stuff that we wanted you to learn, and now you can, in his way, turned my back on that, and started this hobby. And to him, I was playing on the internet. You've got a wife and kid and a child. Why are you playing on the internet? And so watch we Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, SoundCloud is another place we have. We have a WhatsApp line, and of course, obviously a website and stuff like that. And so along the way, next slide, please, we figured out exactly who we are, right? And we are an online publication trying to report what is really happening. We're not politically affiliated to anybody. State media is on the left, and private.
Do you hear Nigel?
Nope.
We lost him. Nigel?
Let me message him.
He's back.
Here we go.
We cannot hear you, Nigel. You're
Okay, here we go. Yeah, okay, great. I don't know why, what happened there. So yeah, so what started off as a hobby, then became my day job, right? And so along the way, 260 became an entity. That's and at the time, I didn't know that I was an organization and then developing different products that we have. I can't see my my presentation. Is it there?
Yeah, I'll put it back. It's just because we lost you for a while. I turned it off.
Okay, cool. Something happened. Yeah, so I mean, essentially, but prior to that, we really, we used to earn our revenue generated from just social media management. So at some point, we could have been a digital agency, we could have been an online publication, we could have been, I don't know, we could have gone in a different direction. Yep, so here I am, yep. I can hear you guys. Next slide, please. So we became an online publication, and we started publishing new on our website. The big thing that we're using everything that we have. So our social media, our social media. So whether we're on Facebook, Instagram, wherever our audience is. So we've created and joined platforms where our community is, right? And so we don't have, hardcore, so we've never done a survey, for example. We've never conducted a survey, done like, no, we've never done that. What we do is we talk to them. We've got a large WhatsApp community group, or groups, should I say. It started also in 2014. I remember one of the telcos was trying to work out whether to create a Twitter bundle, right? So one of the things that 260 Chat did was it popularized Twitter as a platform, right? So obviously we'd have our conversations online every Tuesday, and we'd have
and the telcos are trying to work out, these young people are playing on the social media platform. Should we create a bundle? So a bundle, so basically $6 a month for X much data, and that makes it easy for the consumer. So they decided to give out, to allow free Twitter for 3 months initially, extended it for another 3 months. And after that 3 months, people then say, look, there's a WhatsApp bundle. There's a WhatsApp bundle. Should we, could we have a WhatsApp group just to discuss things? And so there we were. We created the first 2 WhatsApp groups. We currently have over 270 WhatsApp groups. So yeah, about 280, 200, 280, 285, 290, somewhere there. And these groups are different. So there's WhatsApp groups for discussions, for those looking for jobs, guys who are farmers, so they just want to share, hey, look, here's a picture of my chicken leg. Something's wrong with my chicken. Can any other farmer help me decide which, pesticide or whatever to buy? We've got the e-paper group where we distribute our e-paper, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We have WhatsApp groups for, I don't know, mining. We've got a well-being group. Actually, COVID initiated our well-being group. So, a group just to discuss mental health and stuff like that. People talk open, like it's almost like an AA meeting, like a group where people discuss, like, hey, I'm struggling with alcohol. I've been drinking a lot. What can I do? Where can I go? Guys will share motivational quotes or stuff like that. And it's literally just creating a community. Right. So that word community is very important for us, because that's really how we develop the products, right? That's really where it's really critical that we talk to the community, and then we work out what it is they want us to do and how we should then deliver the news, right? So the internet penetration in Zim is sitting at 61%, right? Mobile penetration is sitting at about 98%. Most of the people on the internet use a mobile device. There are people like me who live in the burbs, have Wi-Fi at home, have data on the go, have Wi-Fi at work, and I'm not the majority. So I've got to always remember that. And I am the product manager, as it were, right? My official title is chief storyteller, right? But over the last 18 months, in fact, since COVID started, I realized that I'm actually a product guy, you know? So if I was going to be employed somewhere else and someone said, oh, I want to offer you a job, you know, I get this question quite a bit, or every now and again, and well, I don't know. I think I'll sit in business development. I'm not too sure, but I'm a product guy, and so in my product development, where head or the role that I play, I look at this particular spreadsheet, right? Key Zim stats, and this is very important to me. So, important to us. You know, I'm a ex-accountant, now a journalist, right? And numbers I still like numbers. I still love numbers. You know, 1, 2, 3. You know, I'm trying to, you know, likely for me, my little girl is great at maths. And may she continue with that, right? So, you know, I got to look at Zim and say, okay, where is Zim, right? So 67% of the population live in the rural areas, 61% is in internet penetration, another 67% are under the age of 35, right? A population of about 14 million. We've got a census actually coming up next month, right? We last had our census in 2012, so 2022 is the year. And our mobile penetration is sitting about, well, they say 87%, last report, but it's closer to 90. And our inflation, which is also very important, is about 50, well, was to say about 57%. So these numbers are very, very important to us when we're deciding how to launch a product. As I mentioned, we've got our website. So if you've got unlimited internet access like me, you can go to our website and check out our news any time of the day. But if you have limited internet access, and that, you know, that's a big chunk of the population who have internet access, you usually have the internet access, and the tool that you use the most is actually WhatsApp. And to a lot of people, WhatsApp is actually the internet, right? So we had to reverse engineer a lot of things to kind of come to that conclusion, right? And we looked at Zim, we looked at South Africa, we looked at, you know, India, we looked at countries in South America. You know, we basically did a bit of an analysis and said, look, where's Zim compared to? We looked at our literacy rate, and as a country, people tend to want to know what's happening. So this by-election that's taking place on Saturday, by-elections usually are, you know, I mean, as journalists, we're really excited because it's an election, but the general population doesn't really care, you know what I mean? But this time, because we have a huge election next year, this is seen as a precursor to that election. So the people are interested. They want to know what's happening. They want to know who the candidates are. And a whole bunch of political shenanigans have also taken place over the last couple of years under COVID. Next slide, please. So, you know, we looked at all of that. We look at all of that before we release a product. So I'll give you an example. So like I said, on your left, we'll have our website. So these readers don't need to have unlimited or decent internet access. And then there's no reader revenue. There's no, apart from some adverts, some Google adverts, and some, you know, sort of static adverts from our local clients. You know, there isn't reader revenue. And then of course we have something we call the e-paper. And this is the product that I want to talk a little bit about. You know, the e-paper was something that we coined this word in 2017, right? And so the idea behind it was, look at the person who has limited internet access and can only use WhatsApps. And also a lot of fake news is being distributed using WhatsApp, you know. So I type a message, I can type, you know, political party X has gone and bought bread for everybody in neighborhood Y, right? And please go there if you want a free slice, if you want a free loaf of bread. And that's obviously fake, you know. I don't think any decent political party would go and buy bread for people, but you never know. And so we wanted to combat fake news. So we literally took a snapshot of our website at, I think it's like 4:30, right? 4:30, 5 o'clock. And we created a PDF which we now distribute to close to 52,000 subscribers for free daily, Monday to Friday, sent out runabout sort of soonish. So the editor's wrapping it up. Our social media guy should be distributing it. I normally see it in the WhatsApp groups that we're in, and that's what's enabled us to have so many WhatsApp groups, right? And we still send it through manually, right? We still do that manually, and we send it out. There's about three or four of us involved in that process now, and there is no reader revenue. We do make some revenue. We do generate some revenue from the adverts that are in there. And we've got some big, headline companies, but we've also got some SMEs as well, right? And I speak about revenue because I am, after all, an ex-accountant. So revenue is really, really important. And I like things that are sustainable. I like sustainability is so important to me. So I love crazy ideas, but the next question I ask is this sustainable? Can we do this next week? Can we do this next month? Can we do this a year from now? And so our e-paper has been around since the beginning of November, so 10 days or so before the coup, not coup, when we had a military transition, and we removed Robert Mugabe as the president. Well, I say they removed Robert Mugabe as the president. So our e-paper was really meant, actually at the time we designed it so that it would summarize the news at the end of the week. So the idea was, let's get all the best stories and then share this thing for free at the end of the week. It's actually, e-paper came out of a failed attempt to print. So at the time, in 2016, I was like, look, man, we need to print this, newspaper. We need to hand it out to people on the other side of the railway track, is essentially what I was suggesting. Our editor at the time said no, right? And he was right. He was right. And so the e-paper was born out of that. And we've had the e-paper since then, right? Reaches more people. When you combine mainstream media, all the big guys, and you put them together, we are doing close to 3 times their combined distribution, right? So we're doing, 2.5 to 3 times their numbers, right? Combined, and we're doing it at a click of a button, and we send out the news of the day on the day of the news. So 8 p.m. you should have the e-paper in your phone, and you're reading it and comparing it to the news that the state media has is sharing with you, and you're able to say yes, no, I don't think that happened, that's a lie, whatever it is, whatever opinion you have. The product that we're currently working on is SMS. Right. So anywhere else in the world, SMS is like, well, that's old technology. What are you talking about? But I live in Zimbabwe, right? In January 2019, the government shut the internet down for 3 days. Okay. So we couldn't publish anything on the website. I couldn't access the internet, basically. Right. But you can't shut down SMS. Now we're about to we're in the middle of it. In fact, this is election season already. And so somewhere along the line, someone's going to switch off the internet. I was speaking to, we're also in the process of moving offices, right? My team's actually moving to the new office where I'm currently sitting. Well, I'm not sitting there now, but I'm currently working from the new office. And I was having the internet installed, and I was talking to the tech guys. And I tend to be a friendly kind of guy, hey, how's it going? How's the family? What's going on? Da, da, da. And there was a rally where the main opposition leader, Nelson Chamisa, held his first rally leading up to the by-elections. And there were huge crowds. And we noticed that they were throttling the internet, right? And so these guys, I was then asking them, hey guys, so they say, word on the street is these guys, the internet was throttled. What's your take to that? What's your take on that? And they confirmed. So SMS was launched, or is being launched any day now, to generate revenue, right? So reader revenue, because we are going to have paid subscribers, right? The development of this product there's a story behind this, and there's always a story with 263 Chat. In 2015, one of the telcos had a paid service through a partner of theirs. They wanted this partner approached us to record our news in audio format and then upload it onto a server. The subscribers would then pay, I remember it was 10 US cents a day, right? And anyone with a dumb phone or a feature phone or a smartphone would be able to get this news. The smartphone, you download the app, you get a notification, bang, bang, and you click and you listen to the news. The feature phone, you basically got an SMS that told you, oh, dial this number to listen to the news. And we developed this new product. Failed, right? And we got 50,000 subscribers. The partner didn't give us our money. The lesson from that to say, look, SMS is one of the ways to distribute news, right? So next slide. So SMS is the new product, and so when we're developing these products, we do a bit of research, right? So we look at things like mobile penetration. We look at the use. So you talk to people around you. You talk to family members. You look around you in the public transport system and say, hey, I have a smartphone, but what other phones are out there? What are the brands that people are using, right? We literally walk, in the CBD and the central business district and look at all the phone companies and look and say, okay, what brands are they selling? Are they Android? Are they iPhone? What's going on? And Africa is an Android market. Okay, so you look at all those things and you develop your products based on that sort of stuff. Next slide. So we can tell over the years that mobile penetration is really important. So this particular slide and the one before this, these slides are really important because when I then sit down to write the story of 263 Chat and how this company was born and created and whatnot, these two slides are really critical to this product called the e-paper. Literally that 51% that I looked at in 2016 or early 2017 is what led to the e-paper product, right? It's what also influenced us to believe, hang on, so if there's this internet penetration, so how many people got cell phones? What's the population? So if almost everyone's got a cell phone, man, how do we reach those people, right? And so our SMS product, which is being launched hopefully in the next week or so, right? Or maybe let's call it 2 weeks, right? This product has been developed for in the background for a long time. So along the way, as you're developing these new products, you also have to run the business, right? Because the reality is, I am the CEO, right? I mean, that's chief storyteller is a really nice fancy way of saying it, but I'm the CEO, so I work on there are two teams. There are three teams in the organization. There's the editorial team, there's a multimedia team, and then there's a client services team. And I effectively head the client services team, but I also wear a product hat, right? So we're a small team, and actually now we've got another team called the podcast. 4 of us now, actually 4 teams in an organization. And while you're developing these products, you're also trying to collect revenue from existing clients. You're also trying to develop new relationships. You're trying to service new clients who want you to do things that you don't really normally do. Someone came up to us many years ago and said, hey, you guys got cameras, right? Yeah, we've got cameras. Hey, can you make a documentary for me? And I'm like, nah, man, we can't do that. And they're like, no, come on, give it a go. Come on. You can make a documentary. Come, you see, you got these lights, you got these, and we go make a documentary. And all of a sudden you got new revenue streams, right? So you're trying to manage all of that, right? Whilst you're growing a business in a tough environment with double-digit inflationary pressures. You know what I mean? So that's the context of what we're trying to do. And I jokingly said to Lena, we want to be like you guys when we grow up. And so, you know, you can see where we are and where we're trying to go. But we do have limitations, you know, given the, you know, the macro environment. Next slide. So we are working hard to run this business, right? Just looking at my time. So the opportunity. So it's not all bad, guys. It's not all bad. There's actually, I'm a very optimistic person generally. And so I'm always looking at the silver lining, like, hang on, what's the upside, you know? And I'm always asking, I'm the guy in the room going, yeah, that's the bad news. That's the bad news. What's the good news, right? And, you know, the opportunity is that we live in a country where there's a high literacy rate, you know, so people are hungry for information. They want to know what's happening. They want to know what happened today. They want to know the other side. They tend to be discerning consumers of the news. So they read a story from the state media and go, yeah, that sounds like rubbish. And then they read from the, you know, private media and they go, that also sounds like rubbish. And then somewhere along the line, they find out and find organizations like us and go, yeah, this smells like the truth. You know, get ahead of the curve, tell today's story today, unlike mainstream media that's telling today's story tomorrow. WhatsApp is the internet in this country. So a lot of people don't say things like, oh, can I have a smartphone? They say, can you buy me a phone that has WhatsApp? You know, that's literally how people talk. And of course, the opportunity for us is the e-paper is free. You know, I've always said we're never going to sell it. 52,000 subscribers is a lot, right? And you know, we're just counting the people that we send the e-paper to, right? Never mind the people that forward it on to other people. So that's the opportunity. You know, next slide, please. I was just about to click. So for us, when we're developing products, we think of people in mind, right? So these are a snapshot of some of the different groups that we have. You can tell classified, group 1, sports, you know, a lot of happy Barcelona fans in there. You know, there's a lot of discussions. Next slide, please. We've got, you know, these are the e-paper groups. I think we've got like, you know, hundreds of these groups now. Next slide, please. Then our number, WhatsApp line, our company WhatsApp line, it has been added in other news groups. And they add our WhatsApp line in other news groups so that we can add the e-paper in there. So we don't even count those people actually. So the 52,000 are people that we are in our groups. Next slide, please. So that's how we look at products really. In terms of products, the product team, right? So we, you know, it depends on what's happening, right? It actually depends. So it's kind of like, and it's almost like my leadership style. People say, oh, you know, what's your leadership style? And I'm like, I'm a situational leader. You know, it depends on the situation. Sometimes I'm just like laissez-faire about things. I'm like, I don't care, man, you know, fix it, right? Other times I'm very democratic. Hey, what do you guys think? And then other times I'm really a dictator. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. This is what we're going to do, right? And so, you know, it's the same kind of thing with the product. It depends on the situation, right? Product, and really sort of get him or her in the room and say, look, when you write a story, what, you know, what, like SMS, right? SMS platform. I'll give you the SMS as an example. The SMS product is 10 SMSs that are joined into one. So it reads like one long SMS. Okay, so there's a bit of tech that happens in the background for it to look like that. You got to compress today's stories into 10 SMSs. So 5-6 stories, right? And it's more than a headline. It's a headline. If the website has all the content you need, and e-paper's got even shorter, SMS is even the shortest. So you got to get into the mind of an editorial team member. So you bring them on. You bring in Dyson, who's our social media manager, because he knows, he talks to people. He's on the thing every day. Hey, what do people like? What's going on? He talked to a photojournalist because he's out and about with people, right? And he's not a product person. He's a camera guy. He's, how often do we meet? Whenever we need to meet. We meet every day. We meet physically. We meet online. We've got team WhatsApp groups. So there's the overall team group. There's a podcast group. There's an editorial group. There's a client services group. Lots of discussions that are taking place simultaneously at times. I'm in most. The owner, i.e. me, cannot and should not drive what the editors decide to do, right? So I can't come in and say, hey, my pal owns this business. Can you please go do a PR piece on him because he's my pal, right? We can't do that. So, independent media has to be independent from all the other threads, including the owner, right? That's something I firmly believe. So we work on in different teams, and one thing we've always done. I've got an open door policy, so my door is never really closed, and unless I'm having a top secret meeting with someone, of which I never have those kind of meetings on site. But even an intern can come up with and make a suggestion, so we're all like, hey, what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea? Is it good, bad? Tell us, is it crap? Give us your honest opinion. So no answer, no suggestion is wrong, right? Let's discuss it, and let's fix it. And I like to work on, like, hey, you got until Friday to do this, and you try to give people leeway, and you drive the process. And then when the product is launched, then I let go. I completely let go. And then I hand it over to the business and say, look, the e-paper, that's yours. And I move on to the next product, So right now, what I'm been working on in terms of products, right? We redid our website. We have just about, off you go. E-paper is already, the e-paper people got the e-paper SMS. I'll do that again. And then I'll focus on the podcast. We'll get the podcast up to a certain point. So we're not just making a podcast show, we're making a podcast network. So different types of shows. And you got to be clever about how to do that these days, because you've got Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. And these are products, and I say products, in other words, you can commercialize them. So we did some work for a client last week where they wanted us to have a conversation with a guest of theirs around issues to do with the elections, right? So it was a civil CSO organization, a civil society organization, to speak about the elections. So we did that on their behalf, and that's some client work. And then, after that, we'll figure out what the next product is. And I'm always thinking 2 or 3 products ahead. Next slide, please. So our website is the new site is live, and editor seems to like it. Even that development, you bring in the editor, you bring in the social media guy, you bring in a journalist, right? And you try to switch them around. Hey guys, what do you think? Do you like it? Is it bad? What's the back end look like? Even before you discuss, rolling it out, you have, hey, there's, the WordPress, based site. So a couple of themes, and, we whittle it down to whichever one it is that we chose, and then off we go, right? So we're pretty democratic when it comes to that. I'm pretty autocratic when it comes to the launch date, because we need to, 1st of April, this thing is going to be it's got to be done, and let's move on to the next problem. And next slide, please. So that's like how we work when it comes to products. Going forward, I like to break things into like simple things. So a website is one aspect. Our social media platforms are another, right? And a lot of open media organizations don't think like that, and I don't know why. Right? But for us, because we started on social media, that is we're heavy social media users. We've got, I think, more than 500,000 Twitter followers. And so when we have a Twitter Spaces, we tend to have, good engagement. We've got a Twitter Spaces discussion tomorrow, and that's a collaboration between the social media team, editorial team, and the podcast team. And they've come together to create Twitter Spaces products and different kind of discussions. And I think they're talking about the marriage. There's a marriage bill, or there's some changes to the marriage bill or something like that. There's a discussion tomorrow on Thursday, because it was this Tuesday now. So 2 days from now, having a discussion, hopefully, with an organization that's been looking at the voters' roll, so around elections and stuff like that. So we've got different types of products, and so e-paper is a product, podcast is a product, SMS is a product, and at some point with our podcasts, although it's audio, we're also going to film them as well. So visual creatures like me who love to watch and listen can have the option of going, oh, hang on, I like that conversation. Let me view it on YouTube, that type of thing. And that's essentially how we look at products, how we interact with the audience. Whenever we launch a product, we create a group. Like we literally put our users, our community, in a WhatsApp group. We like to call them our super users, right? And they give us direct feedback. So it's someone who's not linked to our organization. I never met this guy before. I don't know if it's a boy, girl. I don't know where they are. I don't know, I don't know anything about them, but they volunteered because they believe in 363 chat. And we asked them, we probed them. We're not hard to find. My personal number's on the website. Don't tell everybody that, but my personal number's on the website. It's easy to find me. It's easy to tweet me. You can DM me and tell me, oh, you made a grammatical error in this story, and someone will, then I'll pass that information on to some. And we try to stay as close as possible to our community. And that's literally how we win. Next slide, please. So the community for us is really important. In conclusion, because I've been speaking for us, mobile is actually the future. So everything we're trying to think of, has to end up on a mobile device of some sort. And as the technology changes and gets better and better, we're trying to figure out how to do that, how to get onto, iPhone 14 is coming out in September. I wonder what kind of features that's going to have. We're trying to figure that out. Android has got this kind of phone. Okay, cool. And so we try to figure out a whole bunch of things in the background. There's a lot of different conversations, a lot of arguments. I am someone who, welcomes debate. I was raised like that. My parents are typical Africans, so they can be very traditional, but they can be very Western. The Western part of them is them encouraging debate and sitting around a table and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And so my team, I try to encourage that. I've had to train and get my team to hey, let's talk about the bad news, because it's always difficult to share bad news, especially with the boss. But I know I like, what's the upside and positive or what, but give me the reality. What's going on? What do we need to fix? And so that cell phone is really important to us. Next slide. But the most important thing that we have at our disposal is our community. And without them, we wouldn't make these products. So we're making our products for them. We hope that these products enrich their lives. And ultimately, I don't want to say we're a community-based organization, but we build products really around how to do. Actually, recently, just as an example of that, we started to, we started to read our news. So we started, journalist writes a story, getting someone to actually read it, because we started thinking, we're assuming everyone can see, can read. What if they're visually impaired? What if they want to cook and listen to our stories? And so we started doing that this month, right? And that's a new product in itself. The podcast team are now trying to get all those different stories put into one podcast, and that's a new product in itself. You know, so and that was inspired by someone in the community saying, hey, my son, you know, is blind. You know, I'd like him to, have you guys considered? And, you know, this was something that was said to us beginning of COVID. And so it took us this long to figure out how to do it. And, you know, we finally launched it quietly. And I don't like big launches. I don't believe in that whole hoo-ha. Just quietly do the work and get on to the next problem. With that, I come to the end of my little presentation. I hope that was useful. Yeah, hope that was useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. I think it's really useful. Can you stop sharing the screen? And we've run a bit over time, so I do want to see if there's any questions.
Yep.
Lena, Hilal, a few. Hello, Ricardo. We had a few messages of people who had to leave at 5:30. So, but thank you for the presentation. Said it was really good.
I just want to say that it's really inspirational to hear how you really listen to your users and you look into the numbers. It's so detailed with how you looked into who has fiber, how many percentage, and coming up actually solving problems with making this SMS service. I'm really impressed. So I will look to you. It's such an impressive work. It's sort of really listening to the audience and giving them what they need. And it's the core of journalism, reach them where they are. So I would really like you speaking to a broader audience in Norway. I think many will be inspired by it here. Really make the product people need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I blame my non-journalistic background for thinking like this.
I don't think that's fair. That's not fair. I think we as journalists can think like that too. But I think it's really interesting.
Yes, you do.
It's a really interesting way of, like, you show us like how you do both the sort of market research, you know, to see what the situation is and what the gaps are, but you're also doing that user research, you know, what the audience, you know, needs, and you know, developing that kind of persona, having that really strong, you know, that sort of like younger rural woman being your kind of like focus, I think is interesting. So yeah, I think it's, and also, you know, Lena, what you were talking about earlier, you know, like keeping in touch with your audience. I mean, what an incredible way to do that, to just, you know, have them all in WhatsApp groups, you know, so you know the kind of issues that they want to know about, you know, and how to frame the stories. I think that's really interesting. So, any questions before we wrap up? Any final comments, Nigel? Lena, any final comments?
Yeah. You know what I found really interesting, and you touched on it. You know, it's, you know, because I'm not a journalist and the majority of my team are, you know, there's a lot of, and I'm business minded, and you know, they're storytellers. There's always this sort of marketing and accounting fighting over resources kind of thing, and you know, at the end of the day, you know, editorial always wins, you know, whether I like it, or not. I mean, we just wrapped up a climate change project where we went out and did a whole bunch of stories on climate change. And in those conversations you're having with people, you then realize other things, you know, and there's, you know, there's a backstory to the backstory, you know. So just talking to people, just hearing them is really, really important. And I think, you know, yeah, it's one thing I learned throughout COVID, you know, we're distance learning and sitting on a Zoom call, but we're still people, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You know, so yeah, and I've also learned, like, just work with what you have. We're not going to have $1 billion to build the dream. The dream has got to be built with or without the billion, you know. So yeah, make it work.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, when you have limited resources, that's the trick, really, isn't it? And yeah, it's the challenge that you know, I think that's, you just got to figure out how do you do that? How do you do that with the resources that you have? And you know, I mean, bringing in consultants, you know, for what you don't have, like short-term sort of advice or otherwise.
I'll tell you, you know what COVID has done, and I'm always, like I said, you know, the eternal optimist. You're sitting on a Zoom call as we are, right? And you can still use the same Zoom account to record a podcast, because the guy that you want to talk to is a lawyer. He's too busy, he's in court, but he can spare an hour just to sit and talk to you from the comfort of his office. And you can record the audio, give it to your podcast guy, they clean up the audio, and off you go. So COVID taught us we can do that, and people are cool with that now.
Yeah, that's right. The silver linings, I think it's connected us in ways. That's right, like this, which is great.
Yeah.